Hello and welcome to the MCQ lecture series. Since we are in the segue of looking at some of the important multiple choice questions, in today's class as well, I will talk about some of the important MCQs with respect to economics general paper for TYBA. In this class, we are looking at the second theory, which is the Ricardian theory of economic development. So let's get started. The first question is, the Principles of Political Economy and Taxation was published in the year 1917, was written by whom? And the underlying options are A. Adam Smith, B. David Ricardo, C. John Maynard Keynes, and D. Karl Marx. So the name of the book is The Principles of Political Economy and Taxation, and it was published in the year 1917 and written by none other than David Ricardo. So therefore option B, David Ricardo, is the correct answer to this question. The name of the book, mind you, is The Principles of Political Economy and Taxation. It was written by David Ricardo and published in the year 1917. I hope the question is clear. Let us now move to the second question. The second question is, the Ricardian theory is based on dash and dash principles. On what principles the Ricardian theory is based? Let us look at the underlying options. A. Marginal and surplus principles. B. Dynamic and deficit principles. C. Average and total principles. And D. None of the above. So here the Ricardian theory is based on the marginal and surplus principles, and therefore option A, marginal and surplus principles, is the correct answer to this particular question. I hope the question is clear. Let us now move to the next question. Specifically, we will be looking at the marginal and surplus principles in the following questions, question number 3 and 4. So let us look at how it is framed. Question number 3 is, dash principle explains the share of rent in the national output according to Ricardian analysis. Which principle is helping me to understand the share of rent in the national output according to Ricardian analysis, whether it is A, marginal principle, B, surplus principle, C, average principle, or D, deficit principle. So here the Ricardian analysis through its marginal principle helps us to understand the share of rent in national output. So therefore option A, marginal, is the correct answer to this particular question. I hope the question is clear. Let us now move to the next question, which is, as I have told you, is in a sense talking about the two principles of Ricardian theory, that is marginal and surplus. So here the second question is, according to the Ricardian theory, dash principle explains the division of share of the national output between wages and profits. So here we have seen the share of rent. Here we are looking at the share of wages and profits, and which principle is helping us to understand that, whether it is A, marginal, B, social, C, surplus, or D, deficit. So we have seen what marginal principle is helping us to understand. It is helping us to understand the share of rent in national output. Here we are looking at the wages and profits, the share of wages and profits in the national output. It is here the surplus principle which is helping us to understand the share of wages as well as profits in the national output. So I hope the questions with respect to the principles of Ricardian theory, both the marginal as well as the surplus principles, is pretty much clear. Let us now move to the next question. The next question says, according to Ricardian analysis, who forms the interrelated groups in an economy? Who forms the interrelated groups in an economy? Let us look at the underlying options. A, landlords, B, capitalists, C, laborers, and D, all of the above. So who is forming interrelated groups in the economy? All these three individuals, or 3 points per se. That means landlords, capitalists, as well as laborers, and therefore option D, all of the above, is the correct answer to this particular question. I hope the question is clear. Forming interrelated groups in an economy according to the Ricardian analysis. Let us now move to the sixth question. The sixth question says, the Ricardian theory suggests that the total national output is divided amongst landlords, capitalists, and laborers as dash respectively. So the total national output is divided amongst these three groups, which we have seen in the previous question, that is the groups denoting landlords, capitalists, and laborers. in here we are looking at, in this question we are looking at how the national output is divided amongst these three individuals, whether it is divided as rents for landlord, profits for capitalists and wages for laborers, or B, wages for landlords, profits for capitalists and rent for laborers, or C, profits for landlords, wages for capitalists and rent for laborers, or D, none of the above. Because here the word respectively comes, that is why we have to go in the chronology in which I have written this. So therefore option A suggests that because rents will go to landlords, capitalists will get profit and wages will come to laborers obviously, and that is how the national output according to the Ricardian model is divided amongst these groups. So here option A, rents, profits and wages respectively are divided amongst landlord, capitalist and laborers from the total national output, whatever which is available. Okay, so I hope this question is pretty much clear. Very important question, please read them carefully when you answer them. Okay, anyways, let us now move to the next one. The next is talking about, according to David Ricardo, capital accumulation is the outcome of dash because it leads to saving of wealth, which in turn is used for capital formation. So according to David Ricardo, capital accumulation is an outcome of what? So here the underlying options are A, rents, B, wages, C, profits, or D, none of the above. Because what is happening is, whatever this is according to David Ricardo which leads to capital formation leads to saving of wealth, which in turn starts into, or which is in turn used for capital formation. So here the correct answer is profits. So according to David Ricardo, capital accumulation is the outcome of profits because profits leads to saving of wealth, which is used for capital formation. I hope this question is pretty much clear. Let us now move to the next one. The next one says that according to David Ricardo, capital accumulation depends upon what? Capital accumulation depends upon A, capacity to save, B, the willingness to save, C, both A and B, that means capacity to save as well as willingness to save, and D, none of the above. So here according to the Ricardian analysis, capital accumulation depends upon both your willingness to save as well as your capacity to save. So therefore option C, both A and B is the correct answer. That means according to Ricardo, capital accumulation depends not only upon the willingness to save but also the underlying capacity to save. So therefore option C is the correct answer to this question. I hope the question is clear. Let us now move to the next one. The next one is, the Ricardian analysis suggests that rate of profit is equal to what? According to Ricardo, rate of profit is equal to what? And the underlying options are, it is the ratio of profits to labor, it is the ratio of profits to capital employed, it is the sum of wages and rents, and D, none of the above. So here very important question and difficult sort of a question. According to Ricardian analysis, the rate of profit is equal to the ratio of profits to capital employed. So here option B is the correct answer to this particular question. I hope the question is clear. Rate of profit is equal to the ratio of profits to capital employed. I hope this is clear. Let us now move to the next one. The next one is, in the Ricardian theory, economic development depends upon the difference between dash and dash. In Ricardian analysis, economic development depends upon the difference between two things, dash and dash. The difference between A, production and investment, B, production and consumption, C, investment and savings, and D, none of the above. So here according to the Ricardian theory, development depends upon the difference between B, production and consumption. So here production and consumption, the difference between these two explicitly can help us to understand whether or not economic development is taking place. Yeah, so this is how you can look at this question, wherein we are looking at economic development and its dependence upon the difference between production and consumption. I hope the question is clear. Let us now move to the next one. The next one is, David Ricardo emphasized the importance of raising savings and profits for what? He emphasized on the importance of raising savings and profits For what? For A, capital scarcity, B, capital accumulation, C, capital stock, or D, none of the above. So here, according to David Ricardo, the need for raising savings and profit is for B, capital accumulation, and therefore option B is the correct answer to this particular question, which says that David Ricardo emphasized the importance of raising savings as well as profits for capital accumulation. So I hope this question is clear. Let us now move to the next one. The next one suggests that which of the following denotes the assumptions of Ricardian model or Ricardian theory or Ricardian theory of development. The question can be framed in any fashion, but anyways, we are here interested in looking at the assumptions of Ricardian model or Ricardian theory. Let us look at the underlying options. First is supply of land is fixed. There exists perfect competition. C is talking about all land is used for the production of one particular commodity. In Ricardian case, it was corn. And last is all of the above. So here, which of the following denotes assumptions of the Ricardian model? All these 3 points, that means all the land is used for the production of corn, there exists perfect competition, and also the supply of land is fixed. So therefore option D, all of the above, is the correct answer to this question, which is looking at the assumptions of Ricardian model. The next question also talks about the assumptions of Ricardian model. The underlying options are different and the question is also framed in different fashion. Let us look at how it is framed. The question suggests that the assumptions of Ricardian model includes dash. Let us look at the underlying options. The first option is law of diminishing returns operates on land. The next is labor and capital are variable inputs. C, workers are paid subsistence wages, and D, all of the above. So here we are looking at, in the previous question we have seen that there's perfect competition, land is used only for the production of one particular commodity, supply of land is fixed. In addition to this, all these 3 points wherein law of diminishing returns operates on lands, labor and capital are variable inputs, as well as workers are paid subsistence wages, relates to the assumptions of Ricardian model, and therefore option D, all of the above, is the correct answer to this question. I hope the question is clear. So we have 6 assumptions here. The next question is again looking at some of the assumptions of the Ricardian model, and the question is framed in this fashion. The Ricardian theory is based on dash assumptions. Let us look at the underlying options. The first is state of technological knowledge is given. The supply price of labor is constant. C is capital accumulation results from profits, and D, all of the above. In addition to these 6 points, these 3 points are also some of the important assumptions of the Ricardian model. That means the state of technological knowledge remaining constant or given, then we have supply price of labor to be constant, as well as capital accumulation results out of profits. So therefore option D, all of the above, is the correct answer. That means now we have 9 assumptions of the Ricardian model, and they are: supply of land is fixed, perfect competition exists, all land is used for the production of one particular commodity per se. Here in the Ricardian analysis it was corn. Then we have law of diminishing returns applicable to land. Then the labor as well as capital are variable inputs. Workers are paid subsistence wage. The state of technological knowledge is given. Supply price of labor is constant, and capital accumulation is a result of profits. Therefore, these are some of the important assumptions of the Ricardian model. I hope all these 3 questions are pretty much clear. Let us now move to the last question in this segment. The question is: the flaws of Ricardian model are dash, or the criticisms of Ricardian model here we are looking at, or limitations per se. Anyways, the underlying options are: A, neglects the importance of technology. Second option is impracticable laissez-faire policy, or least government interference sort of a policy. Then third is neglects institutional factors, and last is all of the above. So here when we look at the criticisms or limitations or weaknesses of the Ricardian model, all these 3 points relates to the same. That means impractical laissez-faire or least government intervention or interference sort of policy, then neglect of the impact of technology as well as neglecting institutional factors, and therefore option D, all of the above, is the correct answer to this particular question. I hope the questions with respect to the Ricardian theory of development are pretty much clear. Please stay tuned for more. Thank you.